Pensacon with a bang. You know her from ER and from Doctor Who and from right here. It is Alex Kingston.
Hello, sweetie. Well, this is very, look at this. It's like a little armchair. It's kind of feels very English.
We got the comfy chair for you.
Got a comfy chair. Yeah, amazing. I feel like I'm in someone's parlor.
Welcome to my parlor and welcome to closing out Pensacon. Have you had a great weekend?
Yeah, I have. Yes, I've had a great opportunity to meet the fans and chat with them. I hope I've given them enough time and they feel like they got their money's worth.
Well, if not, I hope you certainly give it to them right now.
Yeah, I certainly will give it to them right now. They have no idea.
I spent the morning on YouTube watching the highlights of River's song, and it's so much fun. Just how much of a good time did you have just creating and playing that role to this day?
It's sort of the gift that keeps on giving, to be perfectly honest, because I didn't expect that I would still be playing, let alone talking about this character so many years after she first sort of came on the screen, because I only thought that I was going to be in that first 2-episode story arc, because, I mean, I think anybody would think, you know, if you sacrifice yourself for the man you love, that's it. Game over. But of course I didn't know the mind of Stephen Moffat, and he had already had quite a clear plan for what was going to happen to that character and how she was going to come back. And it's just, it's been gorgeous working on the show.
And how rabid are Doctor Who fans for that character?
Doctor Who fans are, I'm not going to say rabid, I'm going to say they are incredibly loyal. And it's fascinating how everybody has their own particular doctor, and you know, they attach themselves to that doctor and then that is it. But I mean, what I love about the show, and I cannot actually think of another show where this is applicable, but I mean, it is multi-generational. So you can be a grandparent, you can be a great-grandparent and watch it with your grandkid, and everybody is enjoying a different experience but of the same show. So that's quite extraordinary, and I think the message that it sends is a really positive message, and I think it's a great show for families to watch together.
Coming in doing an American TV series like that, what was that?
Well, that was my first introduction to America, really. I mean, I'm a theatre actress. That's how I began. I'm growing up in England. I mean, one didn't ever sort of even imagine that one would have a television career. You know, when I started out, if you wanted to be an actor, it was because you were passionate about theatre. And so that's how I really began, and I had no intentional desire to go to Hollywood and do any of that. And it was just because I had been on this show, More Flanders, which was a mini-series, which then happened to be showing again in America on the East Coast and the West Coast, and I had to go over to promote that. The producers of ER saw the show and asked me to come along and have a meeting with them. I didn't know at the time that it was the biggest show in the world. I had no idea. And when they asked me to join the show, I absolutely thought that they had made a mistake and that they'd realised their mistake. You know, I thought, give it a month and then they'll kind of write me out and that'll be that. But I couldn't believe it.
How were you accepted? You came in, of course, in the middle of the show's run. Were you accepted immediately by the cast?
I was accepted immediately by the cast. They were so generous. I think also just because she was an outsider, she was British, and medically, this is something that's quite common. You get doctors from somewhere else in the world who come and do a sabbatical in a hospital in another country. So the writers had been already looking for that, but they just didn't know which country they were going to bring the character from. So I think it was just really luck and the perfect opportunity that Paul Flanders was being shown in the States at the time when they were making the decision about who they wanted to cast for that outside doctor.
And did the show, do you think it had a satisfying ending? Were you happy to be invited back for the ending?
I was so happy to be invited back for the ending. You know, I missed all the actors and the characters that couldn't come back because they'd been killed off. But so it was I thought it was such a lovely, generous thing for them to do, to try and, you know, to write a storyline that would bring me back just for that final episode. That was very special. And I stayed in touch. Like whenever I go to New York, I always try and meet up with Anthony Edwards, and we have lunch or supper together and have a catch up. Paul McCrane, who plays Rocket Romano, he'll always send me an email once a year telling me about his wife's jewelry sale. You know, and I bump into Noah frequently in airport lounges. Yeah, I mean, we were like family for a long time.
I think you have some people who would like to ask.
If David Tennant can keep coming back all the time, so can River Song.
I think they like the idea.
Yeah. So I'm going to do something, you guys don't know this, but so for every question that you ask me, I'm going to ask one of you a question. And you thought this was just my travel bag. All right. Can any of you tell me the name of an episode in which Matt Smith's doctor ate fish fingers and custard? I see the man over there. He put his hand up. You've got to put your hands up, not shout it. Yes, sir?
Oh my gosh. You look sour.
Bananas?
Right. Now, question.
So, out of all of the places you've been to for either shows or cons, what has been like your favorite to just be in or just look around?
Well, I came from Megacon last weekend, and because I was having having sort of like a double con holiday time here, I spent Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday actually recovering from the Megacon because it was so intense. And they had a pool and it was lovely weather, so I was able to just relax. And that was really nice. I liked it here because we were able to go to the beach and I couldn't get over the colour of the sand. It was just extraordinary. And the food here is really good. The oysters in particular are amazing. I mean, when it's the New York convention, I love going to New York. I mean, it's just an exciting city to be in for a short time and then to get out of. I loved Montreal. It just feels so different, but I mean, it is so different. But you know, hearing the French being spoken and I would like actually to. I've done New Orleans once, but I think I was in and out. I'd like to go back to New Orleans and actually spend some time and really get to know the city.
Between returning to the main series of Doctor Who or having a Torchwood style spin-off of your own, which would you rather do?
Oh, that's difficult. I've been asked when I was actually actively working on the show, playing River Song. I quite liked just sort of dipping in and out because it allowed me to still do other things. But I've been doing a lot of river adventures with all of the audio recordings, so the diaries of River Song, and so I've got to a point now where I feel like actually it'd be quite cool to have a spin-off. If it was sort of like, you know, a limited sort of like, I don't know, 10-part or an 8-part series, so it wouldn't take up the entire year necessarily. I'd be quite open to that now. Yeah.
No Googling. No Googling.
No Googling. So there's another episode in which the Doctor eats fish fingers with custard. What's the name of the other episode? Have a banana.
Throwing bananas up there.
All right. I'm not very good with throwing. I'm not.
Part about being in Doctor Who.
I think, to be honest, it's, I would say, and this applies to actually a lot of the jobs I've done, I love working on something that has a good script and a good story, and also I get sort of quite close to the other actors that I'm working with, and if it's a good company of people, it's just such a joy just to get up and go to work every day. I've been fortunate because I've had that with Doctor Who, with ER, with A Discovery of Witches. I've had that also in theatre as well, you know. And I think actually coming from a theatrical background, company is so important. And if you don't all bond together, then the play is just not going to be any fun to perform, but also you could just tell that, I think an audience can tell. And so because I come from that background, I'm used to, and actually I expect it to be like that in television as well, which it isn't always. Sometimes you can get actors who are playing the lead and who think they're somehow better than the rest of the company. But I've been fortunate because that hasn't really happened to me. So, yeah. Right, I'm going to ask another question. Guys. Haha, no, I'm going to leave that one. Later.
The good.
Oh, right, okay. So, this is all food related. My questions are all food related. So, which Doctor wore a vegetable, and what was the vegetable? That's you over there. You, yes, you.
He wore a celery.
There we go.
Yes.
Welcome you to the great city of Pensacon. Let's give her a round of applause!
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
I have a production question. What is the difference between U.S. television and UK television?
The food. In a nutshell, it's the food.
You're not talking about the banana.
So, in England, you go to work, the facilities are, the facilities in England, I would say, equate to if you were working on a low-budget independent film here. Unless it has a relatively big budget, or like if you are the Doctor or the companion, you might have a sort of a trailer, a decent sized trailer, but everybody else will have like a cubicle, including me. And the food is, and you have breakfast, lunch, and maybe like a soup or something if you're working late. But when I came to America to do ER, oh my God! There's just endless food all the time, and sweets and chocolate, and just like, you know, they would have like a full, almost like a full lunchy thing at 11 o'clock.
Roasted pig.
And then you break for lunch. And but they don't eat lunch at lunchtime. They all go to the gym because there's a gym. So I mean, I couldn't believe, you know, how I mean really well we were treated. It was amazing actually.
Like a spa.
Sorry?
Like a spa.
Like a spa. Yes, ER was like a spa. Absolutely. Thank you. So I have another question. What's this one? Let me see. Haha. Okay, this is another. Okay. Which doctor installed a custard cream dispenser in the TARDIS? No.
Hello?
Who was? No. No. It was before that doctor. You can't answer. You can't have two bananas. Yes. Yes. Jodie Whittaker.
Oh, alright.
Would you have wanted your character, what storyline would you like to see progress?
Well, you know, it's difficult because I was brought onto the show of interest for Dr. Benton. And
how was that?
it was great. And we got on really well, Eric and I. And what I hadn't appreciated was prior to the relationship he had with Dr. Corday. All of his relationships with women had always turned out pretty bad. And, you know, they were women of his own community. And Eric started to get letters from women who were uncomfortable, and they were saying, you know, is it only that Benton can have a healthy, loving relationship with a white woman? And he got very, very uncomfortable about this. And to the point where he just said, this relationship has to end with Corday because I don't want to send the wrong message, which I completely respected. But at the same time, I was also really sad because Eric and I just, we really got well. And Corday, because of who Benton was as a character, Corday was quite sort of feisty. And so when that relationship ended, and the writers were, I think, not too happy that they had to end the relationship because that had been their intention. They just wanted me immediately to have a relationship with Dr. Green. And what I don't think they had fully appreciated was, as an actor, you know, you've got to then do a kind of complete 360 in terms of who your character is, because I was like, she'd have him for breakfast. You know, he's sort of much gentler and he's just different to Benton. And so I had to sort of find a way to not dull her down, but to sort of just take the edge off Corday a little bit, which I think ultimately it worked. But yeah, so I sort of, in a way, I wish that that Benton and Corday had been able to have a little bit longer. Although I loved working with Tony as well, I really, really did. And that, you know, his storyline then was so sad. But yeah. Thank you.
are as Elizabeth Corday with my mom. My family have been in medical for a very long time, and my whole thing is like when Elizabeth found out that Mark was diagnosed with cancer, I really would like to know how she had to deal with that, because my dad unfortunately passed away from stage 4 colon cancer, and he basically didn't find out until it was like too late.
Well, because with Mark, it happened twice. So he had the operation to remove the tumor, and then, you know, the storyline, he was in remission and it all seemed to be fine, and then it came back. And that was then the storyline that then led to him passing. I was so angry with Tony for, I mean, I understood that he wanted to leave, and I got that, but I was just so cross with him because he was putting me through this traumatic storyline. And when we were in Hawaii filming the very end, oh my gosh, I mean, I was absolutely in pieces, and I was just cross with him, and I think it was sort of genuine. It was sort of like I was cross with him for leaving me, and it was a sort of a mixture of Alex being cross with the actor Anthony leaving me, but also I felt cross as Elizabeth Corday that Mark Green was leaving me. So it was very mixed and quite difficult for me to kind of process. And it was like 4 years later, I was in London driving in the back of a black cab, and the taxi driver recognized me and then talked about this episode, and I just burst into tears. So it sort of, you know, it really, it resonated with me hugely. It's a difficult journey, and I'm sorry that you had to go through it.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, with my dad, I mean, it was like stable, and then they basically did like a chemo holiday, but they didn't monitor it, and that like after Christmas.
Yeah. Well, he's up there looking down on you, and I'm sure he appreciates the question. So, who said, would you like a jelly baby?
The U.S. River Song, and I just completed reading the Discovery of Witches series, and quickly one of my favorites.
Yes.
So, what was the experience of bringing that book that is so well loved as a trilogy now, continuing on even further, and planned for 7 books now?
Yes.
What was it like to get to bring Sarah Bishop to life?
Well, I kind of, because I knew that it had already such a beloved fan base from the books, I was a little concerned playing Sarah Bishop that would the American audience, because primarily, you know, it was American readers, would they accept me as Sarah Bishop, being an English person playing American? But I've had pretty positive remarks, so I think I did okay. I love working with Valerie, who played M. I mean, from the very first day we met, we just bonded, and she's an extraordinary actress, a beautiful woman, and we've stayed super close ever since. It was lovely. I mean, you know, how lucky am I? I get to sort of fly a TARDIS, I get to perform magic. I mean, it's such a great job. But yes, I've loved it. I think the books going forward actually are going really back in time. So I don't think there is any opportunity for me to be involved in anything going forward, because I think actually she might even be writing one book that's specific to the early days of them and Sarah. That was one of the ideas that was sort of being floated around. So there was one doctor who became vegetarian. Who was that? The man with a hand up. What was his name? Yes. Yes. In one of the episodes, I can't remember what the creature was, but it was some sort of horrible slimy cannibal, and after that he vowed he would become vegetarian, and yeah, obviously that changed with the regeneration. Yes. Oh, yes.
So my question, so you guest starred on the reboot, or the 4 episodes to Gilmore Girls, A Year in the Life. What drew you to that role?
Well, nothing drew me, they just asked me. They asked me and I said yes.
But it was just such a fun, guest starring, guest role, and I just thought that was definitely not way I've seen for you compared to Corday or River.
Yeah, I mean the writers, the husband and wife team, they were big ER fans, and we were filming ER when Gilmore Girls first began, and we were all on the lot at the same time, the Warner Brothers lot. But I didn't really know much about Gilmore Girls. I didn't follow it because I was busy working. But I just thought, when they asked me, I wasn't doing anything at that time, so I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. What I didn't realize was how much they control the scripts. And they are very, very, they want every sort of T to be crossed, they want every breath to be taken, they want their scripts to be spoken exactly as they had written them, which was a sort of a known thing in the industry, and not easy for the actors. And I blew in, I had no idea. So I was just like, oh no, in England they wouldn't say this, they'd say this. And I just sort of said what I felt was right. And I think everybody was so kind of shocked that I was going off piste that they let me do it. And I was like, oh thanks guys, bye. And it was afterwards that Alexis was just like, that's never happened before. Everybody's so scared of getting something wrong. I had no idea. So, yes.
Did you find out the big secret about River Song? And how did that, were you just as excited as we were?
I knew about the big secret before anybody else. And because I was living in America, whenever Stephen had an idea that he wanted to introduce River Song into this storyline, he would have to reach out to me to find out if I would be available, because it meant I would fly over to England and I would be there, for a certain amount of time. So they needed to know that I had availability, and when I said yes, then he would go ahead and then complete the episode that he had wanted to write. And so for this particular episode, he called and basically talked and said, okay, it's a very, very big storyline, and it's the secret of who your parents are, your parentage. And this was 6 weeks before we started filming. But so of course he had to tell me, and he had to know that I was saying yes to doing the job. But then also it was absolutely obvious to me that this was a secret that had to be kept. And so I kept it. And the other guys, they knew something was, they knew I had a secret that they didn't know about, and so there was a certain element of bribery, but and the script, the shooting script, didn't have the reveal in it. So the actors didn't know when they got the shooting script, the crew didn't know, and it was only, I think it was like a couple of days before, or maybe even just the day before, that the actors got the sides, and in the sides it had the actual scene, but the crew didn't. And so when we came to filming, the crew were given basically the scene, but without that reveal, because it was so important that there was no leak. And so literally, basically the crew sort of found out as we were delivering it on camera. But I was so smug for weeks, because I knew that they wanted to know, and I wasn't going to tell them. It was great. Thank you.